Good evening, everyone. It's nice to have you here. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:04. And we're going to there is nothing to report out of closed session per Government Code 54957.1. And we're going to all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's all stand. And I'm going to ask Ms. Christie Shefferly to lead.
So hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now we'll ask for approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Approve agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Urias. And is there a second? Second. Thank you, Ms. Mead. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. And there are none. The motion carries 5-0. All right, now we will go to public comments. Members of the public that wish to address the board must first complete a speaker form. Speaker forms must be submitted no later than 5 minutes prior to the topic coming up for discussion on the agenda. When addressing the Board of Trustees, please stand and be recognized by the board president, state your full name, and direct your comments to the entire board. Please limit remarks to 3 minutes for all presentations unless otherwise informed. In accordance with Education Code 35145.5, the board cannot enter into a formal discussion or make a decision on any matter not on the agenda for this meeting. All right. And our first speaker will be Todd McWhorter.
So before we get started, I just want to let you know, I do have 2 other people who are going to yield their time to me. So we can go through the process of having them say, yield my time to Todd, or they can take it now if you'd like.
Are they Donna Harrison and Mark Robertson?
They are. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's working? Yes, they are.
What should we just go ahead and let you talk then?
It'll be about
It's
7
a long time, but that's okay if you need
Yeah,
it.
hey, you don't know me well, Pam. I can talk a lot longer than this.
All right.
All right, good evening, board, and thank you for taking the time to listen to my concerns tonight. My name is Todd McWhorter, and I'm the president of the Santa Paula Federation of Teachers, Local 2071. I've just completed my 21st year teaching in Santa Paula and have been involved in a leadership role with the union for at least 17 of those 21 years. I can say that I love working here and being part of this community. One of my goals as union president is to help make the Santa Paula Unified School District the best place to learn and work in Ventura County. I feel it's important for me to share with you my concerns regarding the leadership of this district and perhaps our ability to work together moving forward because of the growing lack of communication and trust. I respect and understand that it's never possible to always agree or have the same opinion, but to not have open communication and to not value your partners in the educational process is not the best way to successfully run a district. Over the past several months, there have been a number of issues that have concerned the union leadership team and myself. While we have felt disrespected, we have continued to work with the district leadership behind the scenes and not publicly criticize. However, when I saw the board agenda Monday night, I decided I could no longer remain silent. My concern is not so much the resolution that is being presented, as I think it's unnecessary due to the great budget news that has been agreed upon, and likely not even legal without collectively bargaining with represented employee groups. My concern is that Dr. Kaur didn't even have the respect to give me a heads up that it was going to be on the agenda. Over the past few months, I've spoken with him many times about how important communication is to have a good, productive relationship. I actually thought we were moving forward with mutual respect in an effort to come up with a plan for next year. And then this. Truly, it felt like a slap in the face. I'm not sure if I'm mad, upset, disappointed, or something else. It's just not a good feeling. It feels like the district is trying to bully the employee groups into negotiating, saying if we don't, they will just impose their will upon us. For the record, I've had conversations with Dr. Cora, Dr. Torres, and Sal, the district's attorney, stating that when a budget was finalized, we would be happy to come to the table should the budget look like the governor's may revise. I was here when the district was in much worse financial shape, and the teachers were the first at the table to agree to increase class size and take furlough days. However, we are not there. The budget is much better than anticipated. The district has one of the biggest reserves in the county. We may have to spend some of our reserves to get through these unprecedented times. I know during these times I've had to dip into my savings account. I'm lucky, like the district, that I was able to save a little during the good times. Please let me share with you some of the recent events that have led to me being here tonight. First is the layoffs. When the district decided there was a budget shortfall and layoffs were necessary, they sought no input from the teachers. We tried to explain to leadership that if layoffs were to occur, we should at least have some input. After multiple requests, the district did decide to listen and work with us, and we were able to come up with a plan to reduce positions without having to lay off teachers. Because we were able to strike a deal at the last minute, you didn't see me speaking at the board meetings in February and March. Then after the close down, we had our initial MOU after the closing of schools. Due to the pandemic, the union and district met to discuss what would happen moving forward. We requested another meeting to work on an MOU to make sure we were on the same page moving forward. Later that night, Dr. Cora called me to let me know he didn't think he needed to work with the union to establish an MOU. I explained to him that an MOU was beneficial to both parties, and working in these unprecedented times would be the best path forward together. He did eventually agree to negotiate an agreement with us, and about a week later, the governor directed districts throughout the states to negotiate with their unions. Again, I believe working together is always better, and was discouraged when he initially didn't want to work together on the MOU. Distance learning MOU. In March and April, the district team led by Ms. Shefferly and the union team spent multiple days and many hours trying to prepare a distance learning program. It was very important for our team to get something out to the teachers prior to spring break so they could begin to prepare for distance learning over the break. Not a requirement, but something many teachers wanted to do so they could be prepared. We were meeting with the district team on the Friday before spring break in an effort to complete the plan that day. At 10 a.m., Ms. Shefferly informed us that she had to go to a Zoom cabinet meeting. We asked if she could stay, as the work we were doing was very important. She agreed to ask Dr. Cora, who refused her request. We then asked how long the meeting would be, as we were willing to wait, as we felt this was so important. As she was not leading the meeting, she didn't know. We asked her if she could ask Dr. Cora to come out of the meeting and meet with us for a minute so we would know how long to wait. He refused to come out and talk to us for even a minute. I then texted him and received no reply. He later said he couldn't step out of the meeting because it would be disrespectful to the people on the Zoom call. Ironically, earlier in that day, he had stepped into our meeting and asked Ms. Shefferly to come out, doing the same thing he was telling us he couldn't do for us. So to me, that was kind of a double-edged sword, right? He could do it to us, but he couldn't have the courtesy to do it for us. As you saw, I then sent an update to the membership and copied all of you. In all of my years here working in a leadership role, I have never felt so disrespected as I did that day, because we were working hard to try to get a plan for the district. Sticking together here. Finally, we decided that we should have some regular meetings. So after these events, I suggested that we start meeting regularly so we could have better communication. We both shared things that we thought could help us work collaboratively moving forward. We seem to be having some positive communications, and we're moving forward successfully working on a plan for next year. And then I see this resolution on the board agenda. Unnecessary, perhaps not legal, and with no heads up. This was the straw that broke the camel's back. I feel like I've tried so hard to have a productive, collaborative relationship with Dr. Cora, and I just don't feel like he values relationships and partnerships with employees. The time has come for me to share my thoughts and experiences with the board. I am very concerned about the morale in the district. I'm concerned that people do not want to be here. I've heard from many employees, certificated, classified, management, who don't feel valued. We've recently had 2 district-level administrators resign, and one is sent to retire. I have to ask myself why. Something has to change. Employees need to feel valued and respected. We need to have better relationships. We need to do better. I'm here today because I'm committed to helping make Santa Paula Unified the best school district in Ventura County, and we can't do it if we're not all in this together. I'm hopeful that this can be a learning process for all of us, and we can all get better. I will no longer be silent, as I have learned that strategy is not working. In spite of the disrespect, my team and I will keep working hard with the district to help develop a plan to best serve Santa Paula. It is my hope that through better communication, teamwork, trust, and mutual respect, we will be able to move forward. Those things can only be built over time with actions, not words. In closing, I'd like to say I wish the leadership of this district would have a decision-making process that is right for the community of Santa Paula, a community that works together to solve problems and move forward, one that takes all of the facts and circumstances into consideration and collaboratively comes to a decision, not one that continually relies on the opinion of a high-priced, big city attorney who don't have to live with the advice they get, but rather get paid by the hour. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Mr. McWhorter. All right, moving along to Patricia Zavala. Good evening, Board and Dr. Cora. My name is Patricia Zavala, parent of a child in the district. Regarding the opening of our schools, I ask that you take into consideration our most vulnerable student population, our English learners, our special education students, and those already struggling academically. Our district has a large population socioeconomically disadvantaged students. Keep in mind that many parents continue to work and are now faced with childcare costs that can be extremely expensive. Many students, like my own child, wasn't able to get a fair chance at distance learning. As a working parent, it was extremely difficult to participate in distance learning. Please think of the existing academic achievement gap that has now been exacerbated due to COVID-19. Thank you, stay safe, and Black Lives Matter, Patricia Zavala. And next, dear Board, this is a quote from an email sent by our association president, Ben Valdepena, to all of California members of CSEA about the budget deal. The deal, as agreed upon by legislative leaders and the governor's office, provides full funding for our K-12 district county offices of education and community colleges. This is very good news and means that your districts will receive the same level of state funding next school year as they did for the year that just ended. The budget deal also includes what is called legislative intent language that states that no district, no county office of education, no joint powers authority, and no college should lay off any of their classified staff for any financial reasons. While this language does not carry the full weight of law, it does send a clear directive to administrators that the legislature intends state funding to be used to keep all existing classified staff fully employed. As you can see, the next year will be fully funded. With this information, I believe the district is jumping the gun again in layoffs / reduction in hours classified employees. I believe the district plans to reduce our hours so much that we lose our health benefits and our retirement contributions, but still be employed too much to get unemployment benefits. Additional layoffs / reduction of hours will cause homelessness, hunger, loss of medical care, and greatly impact the city of Santa Paula, where most of CSEA members live. So by jumping the gun on these layoffs, not only our students, staff, and parents are going to be hurt, but the economy of Santa Paula community too. Thank you for your time, Nora Pettis. Dear board members, my name is Christie Diaz, and I am one of the administrative assistants at Santa Paula High School. I will be entering my 10th school year with our school, and as of today, our enrollment is the highest we have ever seen for the upcoming fall semester at over 1,800 students. The board eliminated 2 classified positions in March that directly affect students, one in our counseling office and one in the library. Both offices will now have one person in each office to complete all tasks for 1,800 students. There is an MOU that has been submitted for your approval tonight to possibly cut staff and/or salaries for upcoming school year. Based off the budget deal that has been announced in Sacramento that was agreed upon by legislative leaders and the governor's office, it states that it will provide full funding for our K-12 districts, county offices of education, and community colleges. This is very good news and means that our district will receive the same level of state funding next school year as we did for the school year that just ended. The budget deal also includes what is called legislative intent language that states that no district, no county office of education, no joint powers authority, and no college should lay off any of their classified staff for financial reasons. This sends a clear directive to administrators that the legislature intends state funding to be used to keep all existing classified staff fully employed. We cannot afford to lose any more of our classified staff if we are going to service over 1,800 students as effectively as possible with already limited staff. Christie Diaz, Administrative Assistant 3, Santa Paula High School. And our last comments for this time is from Zelda Sanchez. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Zelda Sanchez, and I am the chapter president for Chapter 891 Classified Employees of Santa Paula Unified School District. I am appalled once again at the thought of a resolution proposed to the board, Resolution 2019-2022, resolution regarding reduction of salaries work year. The solution indicates unprecedented reduction in state review to the districts is the reason for the districts seeking the right to reduce compensation for represented and unrepresented employees for the 2021 fiscal year, subject to applicable state collective bargaining legal requirements. Governor Newsom and states legislatures announced Monday that they have reached an agreement on the 2021 budget and will preserve spending for K-12 at current levels. Governor Newsom is quoted as saying the funding will substantially exist. Governor Newsom also agreed to add $1 billion in one-time federal dollars under the Federal Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. CARES Act, to be exact. Do you think employees don't read or hear news? Do you think we are blindfolded and are going to just stand here and allow you to approve a resolution that has false information being used to try and convince the board to approve it? This is ridiculous. You, as the board, must also have or know of this relevant information indicating public education will be fully funded. How can you even consider the possibility of approving this resolution? This resolution must not be approved. I urge that the board look at the newly released information on the state budget of the 2021 school year and vote no on this resolution. This resolution, with all budget information just being released, should be thrown out the window. You are the board and you should not be afraid to ask questions or vote no on something you know is not right. Open your eyes. There is no need for this. Chapter 891 strongly urges you, the board of our district, to vote no. Thank you for your time. Zelda Sanchez, Chapter President, Santa Paula, Classified Employees, Chapter 891. All right, and so we do have more comments, but we'll do those at item 6. All right, item 5, information items. Information item A, 2020-2021 SPUSD school reopening plan. Staff will share an update on the progress of creating a reopening of schools plan for students and staff. Dr. Cora?
Thank you, President Thompson. I want to start by saying a couple different things, and that is that we have created a reopening of schools advisory committee. I want to thank Mr. McWhorter and some of his staff that are here today. I want to thank Ms. Sanchez and some of her staff that are also part of the committee. I want to thank some administrators that are part of the committee. We met twice. The first meeting was just to provide us input on ideas on what we need to consider as we consider creating a plan to reopen. The second meeting We accomplished some items, but we also came up with the need to have an instructional subcommittee and a safety facility subcommittee. And so last week, the instructional committee, led by Ms. Shefferly, and again with Mr. McWhorter and his leadership team, along with, I believe, 3 classified members, met to talk about a proposed draft plan. We are aiming to bring that to the board on the July 8th board meeting. Also, last week we had the safety and facilities meeting, subcommittee meet, and we talked about all of the items that need to be considered and purchased in order to bring students and staff back safely. So this evening, Ms. Shefferly will lead a discussion with a PowerPoint presentation that we have, and Mr. Clear, our financial consultant, will also provide information towards the end of the presentation. And I will say this, that regardless of what we bring back on July 8th, we will make sure that the Ventura County Public Health Department is giving us the go-ahead with the plan, and we are also following their guidelines. That's what's most important. So, and the other thing I want to quickly say is that whatever the plan is, it's always subject to change, because as we all know, things are changing sometimes daily. They're not as hectic right now as they were at the very beginning, but there has been a little bit of an uptick in the cases in our county. And so what we present tonight is a draft proposal. Many other districts are in the same situation as us, moving along. We feel that no district will have the exact same plan, but we will be similar. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Shefferly, who will take us through the presentation, and then I'll come back at the end and wrap it up. Ms. Shefferly.
Thank you. Good evening. Tonight we have our first draft of proposed instructional models that could be offered for the 2021 school year. Next slide. As Dr. Cora mentioned, we have a very well-represented committee group comprised of site and district administration, members from CSEA, as well as the SPFT. So we have a lot of voices in the room that I believe you'll see contributed to a solid first draft of recommendations. Next slide, please. The draft plans that I will share tonight were created based on the guiding documents listed here. Like Dr. Cora said, we need to be prepared for a possible resurgence and a possible re-entry into a full 100% distance learning model. So what you'll see tonight was based on the latest information we had as of June 19th, and we'll continue to meet as information changes and is updated. The first guiding document that we form our plans is the California Department of Public Health. It's the COVID-19 industry guidance for school and school-based programs that was released June 5th. In addition, we also use the California Department of Education Stronger Together guidebook for the safe reopening of California's public schools, which has a release date of June 2020. And last, the Ventura County Department of Public Health document, which has or includes guidance from the prior two document, but also offers specific information for Ventura County based on what our COVID looks like here. The document is entitled Guiding Principles for Communication for School Districts. This is being updated at least once a week. So we will review the latest document. We're meeting again tomorrow. So we are continuing to keep up to date on the guidance from Ventura County. Next slide. As many have stated tonight, the governor did pass a budget, and as a result, we have a trailer bill, Assembly Bill 77, that outlines additional language and we'll talk specifically tonight, the language that involves distance learning. We're anticipating final language of AB 77 by the end of the week. AB 77 speaks to instructional time and starts off by sharing that districts can expect to go in and out of distance learning and hybrid models of learning throughout the 2021 school year. We were waiting for guidance on length of instructional year and instructional minutes and whether or not there was going to be some flexibility in that. What we are seeing in AB 77 so far is that the minimum year will remain at 180 days for traditional school districts. Where the flexibility came in is in terms of calculating daily instructional time. The language right now states a minimum of 4 hours per day for most grades for in-person instruction, or a combination of in-person instruction and distance learning. So this is additional information that we need to take into consideration and adhere by when we are developing our plans. Additionally, in terms of distance learning, I want to commend parents and staff, teachers, support staff for the work they did fourth quarter. We really transformed an educational system in a matter of weeks, and I think all are to be commended. What we're seeing moving forward is that the district will have a responsibility to confirm that students have computer and internet access. We do know that through California's Closing the Digital Divide initiative, we will receive over 1,000 Chromebooks, which will allow us to have more than enough Chromebooks to distribute to every single student district-wide. Additionally, we were notified by the same initiative that Santa Paula is slated to receive 1,500 hotspots. We currently have received 100, and the technology department is testing those right now, and we will distribute them to some students in summer school at the high school to pilot those 100 devices. But our technology director has shared that we anticipate that all 1,500 will be here ready to go before fall. So that is great news for Santa Paula. Second bullet under distance learning, we know that we are going to have to document daily student participation in a weekly log and create a system to track non-participating students. And I'm meeting with the Instructional Framework Committee tomorrow, so we're going to begin to talk about what that might look like in fall. Also, we need to set procedures for re-engaging students who are absent for more than 60% of instruction per week to assure that students are not falling behind, and we're doing everything we can to engage them in either a hybrid or full-time distance learning model. AB 77 speaks to communicating with parents about learning progress, so we will develop a communication plan as well as provide supports for parents on how to access Zoom, Google Meet, and some of the platforms that we provide. The second to the last bullet, we also have to ensure that teachers interact live daily to instruct, monitor progress, and maintain connections. And that's what we heard from our teachers and staff that is really, really important and has been the priority, is to establish and maintain those connections. I think it feels good for the students and the staff to connect with our kids. And lastly, provide academic supports for English learners, students with disabilities, and others who are behind academically. So this is just some of the language that is included in AB 77. At the end of the week, we'll have the final assembly bill, and we will use AB 77 to further guide our work. Next slide. Program models for consideration. I'll start on the upper left-hand side in the blue box. We currently have an independent study program in board policy that speaks to the parameters of that. Historically, we use it for short-term independent study, students who might need to go out for an extended medical reason, have other circumstances in their family that independent study works best. So we'll be reviewing that language to make sure that it meets the needs of the school year 2021. And I do want to share that our goal is to provide options for families. We know that families each have their own unique situations, and I think we all feel a little different about COVID, and our apprehensions, range. So moving forward, you will see options for families. Second option that we will offer is a full-time online distance learning program. That is what AB 77 speaks to, that daily online contact with students. The online full-time distance learning program is what we need to be prepared for in the case of a resurgence, or in the case that our governor lessens or increases restrictions for the stay-at-home order. And what we're going to be sharing tonight is our first draft of a proposed hybrid distance learning model. And in a hybrid distance learning model, we see students educated part-time online and part-time on campus. So a combination of both. So that's what we're going to share with you tonight. On the right-hand side of the slide are essential components of all of our programs. These are the areas that we took into consideration, and you'll notice the first one being staff and student safety, connection and belongingness, standards-based grading. We need to make sure that our instruction is standards-based and identify those essential standards that we will monitor and assess. We know that we have to give meaningful feedback to our students and have to implement assessments to monitor progress. Supports for students with disabilities. Our English learners must receive designated and integrated ELD on a daily basis. And we want to make sure, with everything going on right now, that any program that we offer is culturally responsive, and we continue to develop those restorative communities and be there and support our students. And last bullet, but definitely very important, is parents and communities as our partners. We know that we can't do this alone. We need, our teachers need, our support staff need to work together with our parents and our community of Santa Paula. Next slide. And I included these slides to develop context. So before we get to the program models, you can see the thought and the guidance and the priorities that went into the proposed models. Considerations for instructional models. Again, first bullet is to maintain the safety of staff and students as a priority in all of our models. When we created our models, we used 12 students as a guide for student groups. Ventura County Public Health, as of June 19th, actually took out the number 10 to 12 as a recommendation. What we're seeing in Ventura County Public Health guidance now is an adherence to a minimum of 6 foot distance between students, as well as between the students and the teachers. So all of our plans are contingent upon being able to meet the minimum of 6 foot guideline. Also, our plans create smaller student educator cohorts to minimize the mixing of student groups throughout the day. So in all of our plans, you are going to see less students on campus every day and fewer transitions than what we typically see in a regular school day. If our plans do involve student transitions, that means going from one teacher to another. We must maintain a minimum of 6 feet distance and have defined pathways in students. It is the recommendation that they wear face coverings. So we have to analyze our pathways, provide arrows so that students are not crossing each other and violating that 6 foot guidance. And the reason we're doing so is because of contact tracing and the requirements that we may be subject to if we do not adhere to the 6 foot distance. So 6 foot distance you're going to hear throughout this evening's presentation, and that's very important. The next bullet, we know we need to take attendance. We need to know who is on campus each day, what time, any location, and that's why the defined pathways is important. We are being told as guidance that when we create these proposed plans, work under the assumption that the plans will be in place for the 2021 school year. We are not creating short-term 1 to 2 month hybrid plans. Again, what we anticipate is we will go in and out from a hybrid to a full-time distance learning. So what you see tonight, again, is working under the assumption that this is for the entire school year. And again, we always keep our students with disabilities, English learner students, and socioeconomically disadvantaged students in mind, and know that they will need more. Next slide. So we're going to start off with our elementary proposed school model and 50%. And what the 50% means is no more than 50% of the students will be on campus at one time. I'll start with a summary, and then the next page will be the sample bell schedule and plan. For our elementary proposed model, students would attend school for half day. In the afternoon, we would have teacher office hours, class meetings, teachers preparing for the next day. In elementary, students will remain in the same class during this time, and we really want to limit any transitions for our little ones. We will have a staggered recess with minimal students out at one time in homogeneous groups, the same groups as they will be in their classrooms. The proposed model does plan for a grab-and-go lunch. At the end of the school day, the lunch will be brought to the students' class. They will grab it, and then we will have a dismissal plan, including staggered start times. We will identify the ingress and egress, and that will look different at every site. We do anticipate multiple entry and exit points to, again, minimize the number of students lining up in any area, and also for the screening that will need to take place prior to the school day beginning. District-wide, we have identified Mondays will be a full distance learning day. That means similar to what we did fourth quarter. Teachers will post assignments, communicate with their students, identify the work that will be done for the week, and that'll happen TK through 12 every Monday. That will be the planning distance learning day. And Monday was chosen because of the holidays as well. So sample schedule 8 is our preferred sample schedule, and that's what I'll share tonight. Sample A involves 2 cohorts of students, again, no more than 50% of the students on campus. Cohort A would attend half day on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and cohort B would attend Wednesdays and Fridays. The elementary proposed model on the next page. Sorry, next slide. Is what a 50% half-day model might look like, where we have arrival and nutrition from 8 to 8:20. Nutrition, their breakfast would be brought to the classroom. If you're familiar with the breakfast in the classroom concept, that's what we envision, as well as that screening happening at different entry points before the school day begins. Again, you see the cohort A and B attending on alternating days, with Mondays being full distance learning. We anticipate a recess from 10 to 10:15, knowing that that will need to be scattered. Our recommendation is students are dismissed at 12:15 with a grab-and-go lunch. We have a teacher lunch period here, as well as a preparation time. And then from 1:40 to 2:10 would be office hours and class meetings. That would give the opportunity for the cohort that's not attending school on that day to touch bases with the teacher before they attend the next day. Just a couple of side notes on the bottom. Recess time will be adjusted. On-site school days will include or focus, prioritize math, English language arts, designated ELD, and PE. The times will vary by site. There's also a note that intervention will also be built in and addressed after school begins. We feel strongly that we need to begin the plan, and then once we begin and start the program, then we will determine where students are at, what students might need an extended school day for those interventions, and students who are behind. And the entry and exit points will be determined at each site. Any questions on the elementary proposed model right now?
I was just wondering, is the ELD included in the morning, or is that going to?
Yes, it's included as part of the instructional minutes from the 8 to 12:15. What we have identified is 30 minutes a day for a designated ELD. We won't see kids switching groups, so we are going to do our best to differentiate that instruction because, again, students in the classroom have to maintain a 6-foot distance, and the teacher has to maintain a 6-foot distance, and that's important for contact tracing, and I will say as best as we can, because if and when we have a positive COVID case, Ventura County Public Health will ask us if that 6-foot distance has been violated in that particular situation. And if it has, that's where the additional contact tracing requirements will come into play. And Mr. Argent has more information, and the safety committee will be working on those areas. But everything really has to do about the contact tracing and keeping students at a distance for their safety, and in the event that we have a positive case, Ventura County Public Health as well as California Public Health Department have issued guidance on how we might respond if that happens. And all of that information, if anyone is interested, is located in those 3 guiding documents, because I know there's been questions, what are the safety protocols? What are the guidelines? So if you look at those 3 documents, they provide the public and school districts information on all areas.
I just had a question on the lunches also. What's being set up for the students on Monday when we don't, when they're at home? Are they going to have the grab and go? And what about the opposite students if they're not on campus that day?
But I don't, Dr. Cora, do you want to speak to CNS?
Yes, we are still working with Ms. Suzanne Stamp, our director, and trying to work out some of those details. One of the things we know for sure, there are still some details that have to be worked out, and that's one of them. That question was brought up at the end of one of our meetings.
Yes, and I will share, even the committee, I think we all have a lot of questions right now, but we feel it's important to have a plan, because once you have a plan, then we can start working out on the details. It's hard to move forward with CNS, recesses, lunch, nutritions, without having an idea of what the school day might look like.
Chrissy, we did briefly mention those kids when they're coming on the alternating days, when they would take their grab-and-go lunch, that would include their breakfast and lunch for the next day as well. So if I was going Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, and Thursday, when I left Tuesday, I would get not only my grab-and-go lunch, but perhaps my meal for Wednesday also. It's a good point, though, Jerry, because we went with Monday as the off day because there's going to be 5 holidays that are Monday, but that may not be the best day to have off if we're trying to make sure kids have meals.
Right, so, yeah, again, we'll continue to work together, and again, the first step is to identify a proposed plan, and then we will have many, many questions for what the specific daylight will look like, and what we know is that the Instructional Framework Committee will do just that, develop a framework, and then what we will need is school site leadership teams with administrators and teachers and classified staff to work out the specifics, because every school is different, but we all need to adhere to the framework and to the parameters. So we will define the sandbox, and then school sites will build those sandcastles within it.
I just know it was so positive this summer, and everybody worked so hard on getting the grab and goes, and it was so positive in the community. I just was asking for the public.
Yeah, that has been an important component of distance learning since our school closures, I agree. So we'll move on to the middle school proposed models. Again, you'll notice in the title of the slide the 50%, meaning that no more than 50% of the students will be on campus at one time. And again, I'll start. The 50% model will work as long as we're able to maintain the 6-foot distance in the classroom. Jeff, Kevin, and team are working to identify how many desks can fit in each classroom utilizing the 6 foot. So all of these work under the presumption that we can have half of the students in our class, which would be between 12 and 13 students. Another factor that we will need to consider is the parents' families who are going to elect a full-time distance learning model, and that might reduce the number of students or families who choose to send their kids to school in a hybrid model. And that's one of the reasons why we sent out the parent survey, and either I or Dr. Cora will talk about that at the conclusion of the summary. So the proposed middle school model, students would have 3 classes per semester. So they will have periods 1, 2, and 3 first semester, periods 4, 5, and 6 second semester. Reason why we went with the compressed block schedule, it eliminates the transitions. And we have a large middle school, and based on the format and the layout, it makes it more manageable, and I'll say just puts a little more safety precautions in to have students move less, because again, we have to adhere to the 6 foot distance protocol even when walking in class between classrooms. So students would have 3 classes semester 1, 3 classes semester 2. What that might look like is math, science, PE semester 1, language arts, history, and electives semester 2. Option 1, which we will share, looks similar to elementary school, in which Monday would be a distance learning day, and cohort A would attend on Tuesdays and Thursdays, alternating days, and cohort B would attend on Wednesdays and Fridays. Option 2 is very similar, but has cohorts of students attending 2 consecutive days, and there's pros and cons to both of those. Our preferred option would be 1. Again, Mondays will be planning distance learning days. Teachers would travel between the periods, but different than elementary, we're not self-contained in grades 7 and 8. We're departmentalized. We have a little more flexibility in grade 6, so we will need to very intentionally think about where teachers are placed. Because if teachers are going to travel, they need to be in classrooms that are close together. We are anticipating that students will stay in the same class for 2 or 3 of their classes. Students obviously will need to travel for PE and maybe some of the electives, depending on what course that is. One area that we talked about quite a bit is what happens when a student takes math first semester and doesn't take it second. We can't forgo math or English for a semester. Our recommendation in this plan is that we utilize the supplemental computerized programs, and we develop expectations for students to spend X amount of time in that program. They're standards-based, and we would have teachers monitoring progress of students. And again, in this model, we have staggered start times. The entry, exit will be determined. At Isbell right now, we have about 1,200 students. So a 50% model. If every family elected to have their student participate in a hybrid, would be about 550 students. We do, in this model, have teachers teaching 6 periods. Typically, they teach 5 in a prep. Teaching an additional period would give us additional classrooms, additional periods to distribute the kids. And that's one of the reasons why with this model, it will need to be for the entire school year. And again, the 3 class per semester was to reduce the number of transitions and provide some consistency for our kids. I will share, we talked about a different model, where kids might have math first and third quarter versus only 1 semester. And we had a long conversation in terms of consistency of teaching. A quarter is about 8.5 weeks. You double that for a semester. And the conversation, and I'll just keep it to math, was if you have math first quarter, 8.5 weeks, typically you spend the first week, week and a half reviewing, assessing, determining where the student is at, and then move into your standards-based curriculum. That's a fairly short amount of time. They would not have math second quarter, they would have math third, again for about 8.5 weeks. Our concern was that, again, we would have to review, spend time reviewing the concepts that were taught first quarter, and we might have more instructional time or consistency of instructional time if we went with a full semester. So again, there's pros and cons to that, but we wanted to make sure in this plan that we identified that students will not go without math instruction. We'll use a computerized program and identify teachers to support that. The next page is a proposed middle school bell schedules. Very similar to the elementary schools that would have students begin at 8, dismissal at 12:20. For nutrition, we would bring that meal to the classrooms in a breakfast in the classroom model, and then at the end of the school day would be a grab and go. The afternoons, like the elementary school model, would be for teacher preparation, class meetings, teacher office hours. And then again, we know at the middle school as well, our English learners, students who are academically behind, once we get this schedule started, might have an extended school day. They might not be released at 12:20. We might have to arrange for a 6 foot apart social distance lunch period outside of the cafeteria if possible, and those students might need to extend their school day and go back to a teacher for additional intervention instruction. So we know that is going to be needed, but again, our priority right now was to get a general framework together. Any questions so far on the proposed middle school bell schedules? How am I doing? Oh, yes, thank you. 6th and 7th and 8th have staggered start times. Again, with a number of students attending, it will allow us better to pre-screen students and, again, minimize the number of students walking to class at one time. Again, socially distanced with defined pathways throughout Isbell Middle School. Anything? All right, I got a thumbs up from Mark. That's important. Okay. So the models get progressively more complex. So now we will review two models, high school models. Here you see a 50%, no more than 50% of the students on campus at one time, and a 33%, no more than 1/3 of the students attending. Again, the 50% and the 33% model are all dependent on what number of students can we safely get into a classroom adhering to the 6-foot social distancing expectation. And again, we next year, you heard in the public comment, we're anticipating 1,800 students. We do not know how many of our families, again, will elect an independent study, a full-time distance learning option, or will elect to have their child attend in a hybrid model. So that's why we need to get parent input. The high school model has students attending 6 classes per semester. We felt very strong at the high school level that kids needed to attend 6 classes all year long. We have AP testing. We are preparing kids to go on to college and career, and we did not feel comfortable with a compressed block semester only due to the AP tests being in spring. So that would mean teachers would teach classes, 3 classes per day. Again, you're going to see that because of just the size of Santa Paula High School, students will see teachers fewer times. Our older students typically are more independent learners, but it's all based on the size of the school in that 6-foot distancing, and we are limited to facilities as well in number of classrooms. So option 1 is a 50% option. The A and B refer to the student cohorts. If possible, this is our preferred model, where cohort A students would attend on Tuesdays, periods 1 through 3, and Thursdays, periods 4, 5, and 6. So students would see their teachers 1 time a week in this model. And again, cohort B would attend on the alternating days. Again, no more than 50% of the students on campus with transitions. Option 2 would be if we cannot safely have 50% of the students on campus, it's a 1/3 model. So you're looking at, if all students attended, approximately 500 to 600 students on campus on a given day. Option 2 creates 3 cohorts. It's going to take us longer to get all students onto campus. Cohort A would attend on Tuesdays. Week 1 and 3, they would attend periods 1, 2, and 3, and on week 2 and 4, periods 4 through 6. So under the 33% model, students would see each teacher 2 times a month, basically every other week. Same thing with students B, their days would be Wednesdays. Weeks 1 and 3, periods 1 through 3, weeks 2 and 4, 4 through 6. Again, students would see their teachers every other week. And cohort C follows suit. It's just going to take more days to get everybody on campus and through their 6 classes. Mondays and Fridays will be planning, distance learning, office hours. So students would be learning from home. Thank you, Maricela. Students would be learning from home in distance learning, again, with the expectation that we're touching bases with our teachers. What's different about the high school model than the elementary and middle is that students would travel from one period to the next. We know that we would have to look at cohorts and where their classes are placed. And we had a conversation, as a classroom teacher, I might not be teaching in my classroom. I might need to move to be closer to my other teachers and my student cohort. And I, would like to commend everybody, because that's hard. And so just the open-mindedness, the growth mindset that everyone had or has in these models to know that we're all going to make concessions, and the tone in the room was, if it's good for kids and it works out, we need to give it a go. The high school model will involve staggered start times, probably some staggered transition times, so we don't have 500, 600 students all having the passing period at the same time. We could stagger those to maybe have 200 or fewer students traveling at a time with defined pathways, with recommended masks that the kids will have on traveling between classes, and again, adhering to the minimum 6 foot social distance expectation. And again, I want to say all of these plans are predicated upon the safety measures. Can we get all the PPE in? Can we get our schools ready for this type of distance learning model? And the safety committee is working real hard. I know that the orders are already being placed and the conversations are beginning. So I just want to say, predicated upon adherence to all of the safety protocols. Next page is what a proposed high school model might look like. Option 1 on the left-hand side is the 50% model. The numbers indicate periods, so you can see when we have half of the kids on campus, students would see their teachers once a week. On the right-hand side, the less desirable, but again, depending on safety measures, is the 33% model, where students would see their first, second, and third period teachers week 1 and 3, and their fourth, fifth, and sixth period teachers week 2 and 4. Students would touch bases with their teachers 2 times per month. And again, the 33, it just takes a longer time for all students to access their teachers. Any questions on the proposed high school models? I'm sorry, go ahead.
If parents choose to do online learning full-time, do we still get ADA for them?
Great question. We do. There is language in AB 77. We were looking for or awaiting language on that. And again, this language is still being finalized. What I am reading so far is that we will take attendance on a daily basis. What I understand right now is that if a student doesn't participate in distance learning on a particular day, they would be marked absent. And I'm thinking that's why the language is in AB 77 regarding having plans for those students who are not participating at least 60% of the time. We were hearing some information that maybe we would be held harmless. It does not look like that. It looks like we will be taking attendance and generating ADA based on participation, either completely online or in a hybrid model. And again, we're awaiting more guidance on that. Great question.
Excuse me, these are just practical questions. Because children constantly use the restroom during the day, is there going to be a modification of number of children using the restroom, coming and going, that kind of thing? It just seems like a lot of students in one place.
Correct.
We talked We talked about that as part of our safety and facilities subcommittee, and we're looking to possibly use some existing staff on campus to monitor the restrooms, at least a flow of, and determine what's a safe number in our restrooms. So these are all still things that are being worked on, but yes, we've talked about that.
What I'm seeing in plans across the state is they are putting up signage across campus, having additional staff monitor bathrooms, identifying maximum number of students who can be in a bathroom at one time. But you're right, those are all the nuts and bolts that, again, will be worked out if we do offer a hybrid program. And that's where districts are right now, is what is the feasibility of offering hybrid programs, taking into consideration transitions, bathrooms, recesses, all of that. So the general committee and the subcommittee of safety, has a lot of work to do, but we as the instructional framework committee needed to provide the team with a model. So that way we can start to conceptualize what a day might look like, which will make it, I think, more relevant and to be able to address those nuts and bolts. You are absolutely correct.
Another question I have, is there going to be consideration for families having the same days that their students go to school? Because I know we lose a lot of ADA when younger students are at home and then the older students are in school because the parents are working?
Correct. Many districts are looking at, they're calling them bands of students where they're scheduled, taking into consideration families. We're lucky in Santa Paula that we are small enough to be able to take a look at that, but I agree and wrote that down. I think as much as possible, having families attend on similar cohort days will help.
Michelle, I would say that was our thought in the elementary and the middle school mirroring, both having the Monday off and either both having the AB or AABB. We wanted to pick another letter. We wanted to make sure we were consistent because originally they had a Wednesday off, then we had the Monday off, and we said, no, we need to make it the same because, like you said, then the kid's going to go to the middle school, or he or she's not going to go because the elementary kid's not going that day. We figured the high school kids, it's going to be a little different anyways, but we wanted to at least try to match the K-8s.
Right, and we'll need to look at if an elementary student is in cohort A, if they have a middle school sibling, to the best of our ability ensure that they are in cohort A attending on those similar days. So a lot of work, a lot of logistics to take into consideration, and yes, another reason why we're here tonight is in order to just begin to give our families an idea of what a hybrid model might look like, because there's daycare implications and safety and just social, emotional, and fears and apprehensions and unknowns, so that families can make the best decision for their children. Again, the important thing is that we provide parents with options based on what they feel most comfortable with. And again, the hybrid model will not move forward unless we have all of the safety precautions, safety measures in place. So it's all predicated on that. I'll turn it over to Mike now, who will begin to talk a little bit about safety and facility considerations.
Thank you. Next slide. So the district will be providing COVID staff training on July 1st and 2nd. That's for 12-month employees. Purchasing personal protective equipment. So the committee discussed, what that equipment is, quantity, those sorts of details. So we're still working that out, but a majority of that has been ordered, and we want to have it obviously at the schools in time for school to start. We're developing school cleaning schedules so custodial staff have time to sanitize the classrooms, clean the classrooms on a daily basis. We're checking we will have the digital thermometers so staff can check other staff and student temperatures daily. And that will be really up to the school site principal as to where that's done, the number of ingress and egress locations at their school. We're providing hand sanitizer stations. That's in addition to what we already have at multiple locations at each school. Social distancing signage. So we will be, like the question about the bathrooms and students going to the bathroom and monitoring bathrooms, we will have these 12-inch circles that we can place on the ground that obviously are 6 feet apart, so students know easily how to stay 6 feet apart. We will provide masks to students that need them or that don't bring their own masks from home. So we are buying 2 different sizes. One is a youth size for the smaller students and one is adult size. But again, if the students don't have a mask and they request a mask, we will certainly provide one for them. We will provide face shields to staff if it's safer to have a face shield in addition to the mask. One will be provided to the staff member. And then again, the grab-and-go breakfast and lunch will be provided as discussed earlier, and we're making sure that we have adequate trash cans and discussing the process, of course, for the custodians to empty the trash cans on a daily basis as needed, and moving that process forward. Any questions about that so far?
Mr. Clara, it's Pam Thompson. I have a question about checking staff and student temperatures daily. Should a child, not necessarily a high school student, because they can easily go home, but should a child come and you check their temperature and we can't get a hold of their parents? Are there provisions being made for that contingency?
That was the discussion, actually, yes, to, what if the parent drops off the child goes to the gate, temperature is checked, and they have a temperature, and the parent's already gone. So that is something that we haven't ironed out, but is certainly being discussed as to, how do we want to handle that,
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Clare.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Clear.
Yes.
Now, one of the board members just asked, who is that speaking?
Oh,
Any other questions regarding safety and facilities?
I have a quick question. I know we probably don't have something set in place for this yet, but the sharing of technology, who's responsible for sanitizing that in between classes?
We have enough Chromebooks now that students will not be sharing Chromebooks. They will actually bring their Chromebooks to school and take them home at the end of the school day because of the hybrid model. So we are fortunate that we purchased Chromebooks and very thankful for the additional ones through the California's initiative. So great question. That would make things twice as difficult if we had to sanitize Chromebooks, but each student will be assigned and given their own Chromebook. We believe we have enough where students within families do not have to share.
And let's just say somebody forgets their Chromebook. Are they now not allowed to be lent one in the classroom?
We did talk initially to Sally, our technology director, and we might, depending on our inventory, of course, need to have, we'll probably have a limited stock of Chromebooks in classrooms where students would check out. But again, Trustee Luna, we're now entering in the sanitizing after that Chromebook is used.
Thank you.
Do we have a way of coding all of these extra expenses for COVID, or are they just kind of going into all of the, and then eventually when we ask how much it cost us, it would take extra time?
We are putting that into an Excel spreadsheet that we will be able to share. Mr. Clear is working on that because we did a lot of ordering yesterday for the PPEs. So he's working on putting together a Excel spreadsheet, put it all in one area. Any other questions on safety and facilities? Okay, so Ms. Shefferly will take us home on distance learning family survey that just went out this morning, correct?
Correct. I'm sorry. The days are blending, and yes, it went out this morning. Again, like mentioned, an important component to all this is soliciting input from our families. I will say districts in California, all over in the nation right now, are working on what a 100% full-time online program would be in hybrid models. So we're consistent nationwide with looking at a hybrid and a complete distance learning model. What I'm seeing across California, and Mr. McWhorter has some information as well, our plans are similar to what we're seeing up and down California right now. Every plan is a little different. Like Dr. Cora said, there is not one standard hybrid plan, but what we are seeing across California, depending again upon the 6-foot social distancing expectation, we're seeing 33% plans, 50% plans. We're not seeing plans in which all students are returning to school, because the guidance does say to try to minimize the number of students attending school as well as transitions. So in terms of offering a hybrid and a full-time distance learning plan, that's pretty standard. That's what we're seeing in the guidance. So it's going to be important to gauge our parents' comfort level with both models. So what we've done is we work together in our instructional framework committee, and we've identified a distance learning family survey. It is located on our district website from front page. It was advertised through social media today. For parents who do not have internet access, we did include the Educational Services phone number where they can call into our office. And I have a staff member who is taking parents through the questions of the survey, and she's inputting it on our end so their concerns, their comfort levels are reflected. We will have the survey open today through Monday, June 29th, because on June 30th, we will reconvene again as an instructional framework committee. Take a look at our parents' comfort levels, specifically how comfortable our parents feel with sending their students back to school in a hybrid model with the safety of the 6-foot distance learning, 6-foot social distance requirement, as well as a reduced number of students on campus. It is a short time that our survey is open, but we need to start making plans, because the second step would be to identify those families as of right now who do not feel comfortable with a hybrid model, who are interested in a distance learning, and to get some more specific information to determine how many students might be returning to our schools in a hybrid. Because then you look at your plans, we might be able to get to that 50% at the high school, or be able to see kids a little more. It all depends on how many kids we have on campus. So the survey is available. I checked results as of 5 p.m. today. We have had 270 parents answer the survey, 93 from the high school level, 63 from middle school, and approximately 100 and 14 from the elementary level. So we'll continue to have that available. We also will be sending out a Connect Ed call. That's via phone to our parents, just in case they do not have social media. They'll receive the message through phone call, giving them the options. And I'll share real quickly some of the questions that we're asking. What school does your child attend? What grade levels? There is an elementary, middle, and a high school survey in English and in Spanish. We're asking parents, what is your preferred format of school? Do they prefer that their child attend a full-time online learning only program? Do they prefer that because of some health concerns that they have regarding their child? Or do they prefer that their child attends school part-time and does some learning online and on campus, which we are calling our hybrid model? We're asking parents to rate their comfort level with being completely comfortable, okay with it, or uncomfortable in terms of full-time online, hybrid, or full-time on campus in the event that public health allows that. Again, we're just trying to gauge comfort levels. We are also asking parents how important the following components are of distance learning: that live online instruction with teachers and live online office hours with teachers. So that online face-to-face, I guess you can call it, if it's very important somewhat or not. We're asking parents how comfortable they are with the following campus safety precautions: average class size of 12, regular class size, if allowed by public health. Doesn't look that way right now, but again, we'd like to know if public health allows it, how comfortable might our parents be? Students using non-toxic wipes, required masks for students, optional masks for students. So again, to gauge that, we did include two questions that allow parents to submit comments. The first one, if you're not comfortable sending your child back to school, is there anything that would make you more comfortable? And most of the parents, I want to say almost all of those 270 are completing the narrative questions, which again is good information for us. And the last question is, what, if any, additional supports do you think your child may need when returning to school? In the limited number of responses that I'm seeing right now, parents are concerned about those achievement gaps, those academic gaps of students being out. In the initial, again, only 270, I'm seeing the English learners, my students behind. What is special education service going to look like? And we will be working with Stephanie Barnes, our new Executive Director of SPED and Student Services. Special education services will be individualized based on each student's IEP. So we had our first conversation today, so she'll be leaning on that special ed program with our team. So the survey is short. Again, it's intended just to get some initial information right now, and then based on the information, we'll determine what additionally we might need. But the most important thing is, again, that we get started, that we have a proposed framework, like Trustee Colbeck said, so we can start to address the nuts and bolts. It's hard to address nuts and bolts when you can't conceptualize something. So again, I'd like to thank our team. Did I forget something, Todd?
You didn't forget something, but when you brought up one of the survey questions, you brought up a point that I think is important for the board to know. The system that's been created now for the hybrid really is really set up better for if there is another outbreak or a shutdown of the schools like we had in March. When that happened, nobody knew what they were doing because it's never happened before. So we went to the remediation. People weren't familiar with the Zoom or the Google Meets. And then it's really difficult to try to have live instruction with 36, students at the high school. But the way it's set up now in the 50% model or the 33% model is that there would be dedicated time with smaller groups to continue to provide that new learning. And so these are some of the things we're going to talk about tomorrow. But I just thought when she brought up the Zoom, I mean, we didn't even think about that. We did the survey, and then when we were designing the models, you know, we talked about how much better it would be for giving the live instruction, because we all see how unpredictable things are, and we know we're not going to be doing remediation if the school is shut down physically again. So I just wanted to make sure that, because I don't think we share that part of the design was to be able to full distance
And
learning,
back and
to
forth,
be able to
correct.
better provide instruction for the
Right.
students.
And what we are seeing statewide, and in Ventura County as well, for the districts who have sent out a parent survey very similar to ours. We used other districts to create ours, is we're seeing anywhere from about 20 to 30% of the parents right now thinking that a full-time distance learning option is best for their families. Again, it all depends on information. You know, things might be different next week, but we made it real clear that we need to be flexible, and this might look different 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now, but at least we have a starting point. And last slide, it's just a wonderful quote by St. Francis of Assisi. Start by doing what's necessary, then what's possible, and suddenly you're doing the impossible. And I think that speaks to the work of everyone, is that we've never done this before, and hopefully we will never have to do it again. But we're trying to create a simple model where we could focus in on educating kids, where we're not overly focused on the transitions and the complexity of the model. Let's put together and move forward a solid model where we can do our best to educate our students under these challenging, unprecedented, undesirable times. So thank you. Any additional questions, comments?
Ms. Schifferly, what's the plan for the water stations?
I can't.
What's the plan for the water stations around campuses? Yeah. Because it's touch mode,
You can't have it.
right? So-
That's one of the things we talked about, and I know Mr. Arjun discussed, I think it was just yesterday. And one of the things we talked about, while we did order some touchless units, it was discussed that when you touch things, you still have to clean your hands afterwards. And so, what's the best way to explain that, Mr. Arjun? You were talking about it yesterday. As you touch things, you then wash your hands afterwards. So regardless, it's not so much cleaning the unit, it's cleaning your hands and keeping them clean on a regular basis. I say that right?
I think he may have dropped off, but that was the gist of it. Once you have, if you touch the touch point, once you again have the sanitizer in your hands and you utilize it all over, you have now removed what you just touched.
The refill, the hydration stations that we put in a few years ago.
Correct.
Because, yeah, they're
So
not touchless. We gotta.
Those would be a separate consideration. I think what Dr. Cora is speaking to are the hand sanitizer stations.
Correct.
So your question, Mr. Luna, about the water stations again was?
Right.
Recent restrictions allow for water stations. Students are supposed to be bringing their own water.
Yeah, so that was my question, because I wasn't up to date on that one, so I just wanted to make sure that those water stations were either going to be, caution off or something to that effect.
But I know your question prompted the discussion we had yesterday about touching things, and there's no way that we can be cleaning everything all of the time. So it comes down to having good hygiene practices by our students as well as our staff members.
On the survey, you said Facebook, website, and then they could call the number. Are we doing an Ed Connect? Because if they don't have that, and you said that part?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, a lot of information. Maricela will be sending out Ed Connect for parents who don't have access, and that's why we included the Educational Services phone number, 805-933-8804. If you call that, you will give one of our live staff members who's answering calls, and we'll be able to walk you through the survey, and at the same time, we're entering it in, so any narrative comments. And the surveys are in English and Spanish, and the message on the website, if you utilize the translation feature, will translate the narrative that comes, that prefaces the intent of the surveys.
Anyone watching this on live streaming right now, if they didn't get that phone number, this is attached to the agenda. They just have to click on it and open it up, and on that parent survey slide is the phone number.
I just wanted to say thank you for all of the work that went into this presentation, for admin, for the SPFT, all the teachers that have spent so much time through this whole pandemic, the CSEA, everyone has really stepped up, and it's so appreciated by all of us and the community, so thank you.
If I can add to that, I'd like to quickly say, as you mentioned, SPFT leadership, CSEA leadership, our admin staff, and Mr. Arjun and Mr. Kevin Schmitz, I'm not sure if he's on, yes he is. They've been, and with Sally Rowland, kind of taking the lead on the whole safety, but whether it's educational, safety, there's been a lot of work, and I've been saying since the very beginning about building an airplane in midair. And I want to say that we're getting close to getting that plane completed. And Ms. Shefferly, thank you very much for your leadership. Any other questions? So this is the start of what we're going to bring back to the board on July 8th. Okay?
I'd like to thank Ms. Shefferly, Mr. Clara, Mr. McWhorter, and all the task force members for all the work you've done also. We really do appreciate it, and it is not easy at all. And lives hang in the balance, and I know you guys have dedicated yourselves totally to trying to do your best, and we appreciate it. All right. Shall we move on to action items? 6A, guidance of opening high school athletic activities. The district believes it is essential to the physical and mental well-being of high school students to return to physical activity and athletic competition, and endorses the idea of returning students to school-based athletics in any and all situations where it can be done safely. Dr. Cora?
Thank you, President Thompson. I'd like to say thank you to Mr. Guzman, our athletic director, who's on Zoom right now, Ms. Perez, Ms. Garcia, principal at Santa Paula High School, as well as other staff members who came together and pulled the guidance together to get started with athletics at the high school. And other districts have been working on this as well. And the guidance is really just what it says. It's guidance for our athletes to start to really just work on two things: skills and also conditioning. Regardless of what is listed here in the guidance manual, we will not get started unless the Ventura County Public Health Department gives us the okay to move forward. And again, we will be checking with them just before, because everything is changing so quickly. So with that being said, Ms. Garcia or Mr. Guzman, anything you want to share on the creation of the document?
No, Dr. Cora, just adding to what you just said. We have following...
Mr. Guzman, we can't quite hear you. Can you maybe put the mic closer to your mouth?
Can you hear me now?
A little better, yep.
Me now?
Yes.
Okay, just adding to what you said, like I said, we're just following our neighboring schools. A lot of our schools have kind of already kicked into gear. Our plan was comprised, as you indicated, by a committee of our coaches. We've been Zooming and developing that plan. Where we're at now, like you also said, there's a lot of changes happening from week to week. Things looked good 2 weeks ago, and now, as of last week, as you know, numbers are up. So we know that the plans are designed to change in going in line with what's happening around our community. So we thank you guys for taking that plan into play and considering it. And I'm open for questions if any of you guys have any questions for us.
And I know one of the things that it talks about in the plan is having the groups in small pods with coaches and the players not mixing with other players in other pods. It also talks about, we were on a county superintendent call on last Friday with Dr. Levin from, again, Ventura County Public Health Department. He had talked about, which may seem difficult to do, but there should be no ball exchange. So again, you're talking about conditioning and skills improvement, basically without balls to practice. So, but it's a start to get kids moving, but again, only as we're allowed by the Ventura County Public Health Department.
Correct. And that plan, Dr. Cora, again, it's voluntary. It's not mandatory. It will not be, student athletes will not be penalized if they choose not to attend, at least through phase one. Part of phase one is just kind of getting our kids back and getting organized a little bit, following those guidelines, 6 feet apart, no sharing the ball, other than just kind of organizing and getting some agility and some conditioning and preparation, hopefully for plan 2, if there is ever a plan 2 or a phase 2.
Thank you. Ms. Garcia, anything you'd like to add?
Yes, so I just like to emphasize and that safety is number one as we put our plans together, and that we are following public health guidelines as well as the National Federation of High School Sports and Ventura County Football Coaches Association. So we're looking at all of the guidelines, including guidelines for reopening schools, and we only want to proceed with the most caution in place. And in phase one, it's important to note that there will be no locker room usage. And we also will make sure that all of the athletes coming prepared as well as leaving, so they're not going to be utilizing the locker room facilities. So that's something that's important. And it's also important to note that if and when Ventura County Public Health review and approve our plans to move forward, we need to make sure that we are keeping our students in small pods, and there will be screening and temperature taking in order for us to come back in the event that we have to contact trace. So that's a theme that we've heard this evening regarding contact tracing and the importance of us being able to do that. There will be strict protocols in place. So I just want to emphasize that safety is number one.
And also, Mrs. G, if I may, the plan only is intended for the upcoming season, which would be fall sports only, but would not include any of the winter or spring sports at this stage, this early.
Ms. Garcia, Mr. Guzman, thank you. With that being said, staff recommends the Board of Trustees review and consider approval of the guidance for opening up high school athletics.
All right, is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Luna. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Mead. And a discussion.
I had a couple of questions. First of all, is there any type of waiver or consent that's going to be given to the athletes and/or parents?
Great question, Ms. Mead. And we had that discussion earlier. There is not in this guidance. However, we are going to make a revision to place a document in there that students and parents will need to sign off on. Great question.
The second question is under the section where you talk about facilities cleaning. In red, you have written down maintenance support. Does that mean everything under that title is done by our custodial, or is this divvied up between some coaches, some athletes, or is everything there going to be done by our custodians?
I'm not going to speak for the high school. Mr. Guzman, Ms. Garcia?
The reason we highlighted that component there is that, in understanding that currently, there's no maintenance being done to the facilities or full maintenance as we're accustomed to. If we bring the students back, there would be some maintenance, some cleanings of restrooms and whatnot, gymnasiums that would need to take place. So, in combination with our custodians, staff, and our coaches, there would have to be some cleaning that would require both sides to do before, during, and after practices.
I was just wondering, because if that was to be expected of our custodial staff, that's a huge amount of money that would be going to it. So I was concerned, but it looked like it could be divided up, but I just wanted to make sure where it said maintenance support, it wasn't just custodial.
Yes, that would be correct. And so it would have to be something that is a joint effort, because we know that cleaning and safety is going to have to be a shared job as we reopen schools and we consider athletics moving forward.
I agree with Mrs. Mead on the extra maintenance support. That one really set a red flag for me, because we're not going to even have enough maintenance support to open the schools. So I'm not against the meeting outside, having cohorts, interacting, those kinds of things. I am concerned about the weight rooms particularly. I'm not sure of our liability, because if you see fitness centers and everything, all of the elaborate things they've gone to, I don't think we could meet that criteria at this time. A consideration might be to buy, and I would say just limit it to the varsity members of each squad, but we could purchase them a membership at our local fitness center. They take on the liability, they take on the cleaning, they take on all of that for the weight room. And the local one charges about, I think, $30 a month per student. So that might be an alternative to us providing the weight room and all of the what ifs and expenses that go along to it. The other thing that's not in it, and I don't know how you can, how you're going to handle this, but CIF asks for, the physical exams.